This conference will now be recorded.
Right. So yesterday we have seen about looping statements, while, end while, continuous statement, exit statement. Okay. And as part of the selection screen, we have seen how to design the input fields. How to design the input fields. Now my next requirement is, see here, we should have a selection screen which should have some input fields, two input fields, and it should contain some 4 radio buttons. Okay, it should contain 4 radio buttons or 5 radio buttons, and I want some validations. What is that? Default the input fields with what, 20 and 10. And what is the second validation? Restrict the user to select only one radio button at any point of time. We need to restrict the user to select only one radio button at any point of time. Means out of 5 radio buttons, I should be able to select only one. Suppose I assume that I have selected the second one. Then I'll try to select the fourth one. The moment I select the fourth one, the previously selected radio button should be deselected. So we should restrict the user to select only one radio button. And what is the third validation? By default, the fifth radio button should be selected. When the selection screen is displayed, I want the fifth one to be selected by default. Okay. And what is the fourth validation? I'll enter the input fields, right? And after entering the input fields, I'll select a radio button. On selecting one of the radio button and on click of execute button, we need to identify the selected radio button and perform the required operation and display the result on what? Output screen, list processing screen. Here our agenda is what? Not to do addition, subtraction, difference. Our agenda is to understand how to design this particular radio buttons, how to identify the selected radio buttons, how to restrict the user to select only one radio button. This is the overall requirement. Okay, so let's see that. Right, hope the requirement is clear to everyone. So let us design the selection screen which contains these 2 input fields and these 5 radio buttons. So I'll go to ABAP editor. I'll try to re-log on. Okay, so I'll go to SC38 ABAP editor. Right, I'll give the object name as something Z830 program. What is that? 6 or 7? 7 is there. 8. I'll provide some title. Selection screen radio buttons. Type of program executable. I'll save it in the local object. Right. So what is the initial focus here? We should have the selection screen which should contain these 2 input fields. Right. So how do we design that? By using what? Parameters. We know that. So I'll say parameters p_x type I. I'll provide some default values. I'll make that as compulsory field. Then p_y type I default 10 obligatory. Okay, so save it, activate the program. So when I execute, I got the 2 input fields. Then I want some meaningful text. I'll choose go to text elements, selection text. I'll provide some text here. Enter first number and enter second number. Activate the program. So if you go back, right? I got the selection screen with the two input fields. Now this selection screen should contain what? Some 5 radio buttons. Okay, and whatever we are seeing here, these two are input fields. I want 5 radio buttons also. So how do we design the radio buttons is, let me use separate parameters. What are the names of the input fields? P underscore X and P underscore Y. Similarly, I require 5 radio buttons. So each radio button also will have a name. So let me give the names of the radio buttons as, I'll use a chain operator. I'll give the name of the radio button as P underscore R1, some name. Radio button group. We have to give some group name. You can give any group name. I'll give the group name as group 1. Done. Then I'll take another radio button. Like this, I'll design what 5 radio buttons. I'll give the period here. So from year to year, it is considered as only what? One statement. I'll give the names of the radio button as R2, P underscore R2, R3, R4, and what? R5. Done. Save it, check for the syntax, activate this. So when I execute, what happened here? I got 5 radio buttons. Okay. Here also I want the meaningful text. So how do you provide? I'll choose the menu, go to text element, selection text. I'll provide the meaningful text like addition. Let me give it as something difference. I'll give it as product. I'll give it as a division. I'll give this as something none of the above. So some meaningful selection text I'm providing. Activate this. Go back. Activate. So when I execute, I got 5 radio buttons. Understood. What are the names of the radio buttons? P underscore R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. Now, if you see this here, by default, which radio button is selected? First one is selected. Okay, what is our one of the validation? If you see the third validation, by default, fifth radio button should be selected. So whenever this screen is displayed, the fifth one should be selected by default. So a radio button will have only either of the two values. A radio button will have either X or space as values. A radio button will have either X or space as values. Okay. If it is having X means it indicates what it is selected. If it is having space means it indicates what not selected. So I want the fifth radio button to be selected by default. So I'll say here for the fifth radio button, just like for this input fields, I use the addition default. Na? For this radio button also, I'll say default. I'll say small x. I'll say small x. But what I told, a radio button can contain either uppercase X or space as what values. Wantedly, I gave what lowercase x. When I save it, check for the syntax. I got an error in the 10th line. A parameter of a radio button group, can only have X as default. Can only have uppercase X as what? Default. Am I clear? So I cannot give whatever I want. It will contain either X or space. So let me give it as uppercase X. Let's execute this. When I execute, when I say F8, what happened here? By default, fifth radio button is selected. If you are not using the default addition here, what has happened? By default, the first radio button in the group is selected. In this case, I made the fifth one to be selected by default. And another point is, all these radio button belongs to same group. What is the group name? GRP1. I can give any name, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, P, Q, R, whatever you want, you can give. I gave the same group for all the 5 radio buttons. Why same group means, what is one of my validation? I should restrict the user to select only one radio button at any point of time. So if all the radio buttons belongs to same group, then only I can restrict the user to select only one radio button. So in this case, by default, fifth one is selected. Now I'll select product. Automatically the fifth one is deselected. I'll select addition. Automatically product is deselected. So at any point of time, user can select only what? One radio button. For example, here I'll say this has something group 2, some name. Okay, so we have what? Two groups. In group 2, we have three radio buttons. In group 1, we have two radio buttons. So in group 2, since I didn't use any default addition, by default, the first one will be selected. In group 1, I made the second one to be selected by default. So when I execute this, you can see now I am having what? Two buttons selected. Addition. This is one group where I can select one radio button. This is another group. Okay, but our validation is what? I should restrict the user to select only one radio button. So I am adding it to what? A single group. I gave the name as GRP1. You give whatever you want. Okay, so now if I execute this, assume that I have selected what product. I selected product. If I click on this execute button, my program should identify which radio button is selected. Based on that, I have to perform the calculation. So how do we check it programmatically which is selected? If a radio button is selected, the value of the radio button will be set to X internally, otherwise space. So in this case, what is the value of p underscore r1 internally? Space, because we are not selected. What is the value of p underscore r2? Space, because not selected. P underscore r3 is what? X, because it is selected. P underscore r4 is space. P underscore r5 is what? Space. So a radio button will have either uppercase X or space as what? Values. Now I need to perform the calculation. So to store the result, I require a variable. Na? I'll declare the variable data v underscore res type I. Okay, and I have to check the conditions which radio button is selected. Based on that condition, I need to perform the calculation and display the result. How do I check the conditions? Already we know. If p underscore r1 equal to x, means if the first radio button is selected, I have to do the addition. So v underscore res is equal to what are the input fields? P underscore x plus p underscore y. This point anyhow we know. Sum is v underscore res. Else if the first condition is not satisfied, I'll check the second condition. Like this, you proceed further. Okay, so here I'll say what? res is equal to p underscore x minus p underscore y. Here I'll say product is, so sorry, differences. Okay, let me p underscore r3 equal to x, p underscore x into p underscore y. Okay, right, product is done. Then else if p underscore r4 equal to what? X, I'll say p underscore x by so and so. Division is so and so. Okay, if none of the four radio buttons are selected, obviously the fifth one is selected. So I can directly say what? I can directly say else part. I'll just give a message here. Message, please select either of the first four radio buttons. Okay, type what? Information message. End for if is what? End if. Save it, check for the syntax, no errors, execute this. When I say F8, okay, so assume these are the input values. I'll choose product. If I click on execute button, I got product is 550. I'll choose difference. I got difference is 45. I'll choose none of the above. I got the message, please select either of the first radio button. So this is a way to construct the radio buttons on the selection screen, and to identify the radio buttons which is selected, you have to check for the value of that particular radio button. If the radio button is selected, the value will be X, otherwise it will be space. Yeah, any questions, please ask.
Sir,
Yeah, Rohit.
Hello. We have applied parameters two times. Is it
No, don't apply.
possible one?
Don't don't apply. Use the same thing. No
Yeah.
problem.
Okay. 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 Yeah,
Okay? I
okay.
can
Thank
give
you.
comma here. I can do it. Okay, no errors when I execute. Okay.
Okay.
So just for your understanding, since we are at the beginning of the course, I am doing it separately, wantedly every time. Okay. Yeah. Any other doubts, please?
Sir,
Yeah, Jyoti.
if I want to place radio buttons in a horizontal way,
Not now. After 1 month,
okay,
we have
thanks.
something called as dialogue programming. Dialogue programming, module pull programming. Okay.
Okay,
So in that module pull programming, what you will do is you will design a screen. Here, actually, I am not designing the screen. Na. The moment I use parameters, automatically the selection screen is generated. Going forward, we will develop something called as dialog screen. On the dialog screen, left hand side, you will have toolbox. In this toolbox, we have something called as radio buttons. So what you will do, you will select the radio buttons and you will put it according to your wish. Wherever you want, you can put it. But here,
okay,
if I use this statement, it will always come like this, one after the other.
okay.
Right, Jyoti? Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank
So
you, sir.
answer is possible, but we need to wait for another 1.5 month to get to that particular stage.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, please mute your speakers. Yeah, any other doubts, others? Sai
Sir, if we use if, is it mandatory to use else always?
means I didn't get you what you're expecting. Don't use.
Here we
If
wrote
you have
if
only
means
one, if you have only
is
one condition, if you have only one condition, obviously I don't require else, na. Directly I can say and if. No problem. Understood? Here I need to check multiple conditions. That is the reason I'm going for what? Else if.
here in place of else can we put else can we write
I write it, no problem. No
in
problem.
place of line?
No problem. No problem. I can write like this.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So when I execute this, suppose here, instead of using else, I'm using that one. Okay. Fifth one is selected. I'll click on that. I got the same. So what I mean to say is a logic can be written in 1,000 different ways. I repeat, a logic can be written in 1,000 different ways. Okay. So the purpose of this training is which is a better way. That will come only by practice, not by just attending the sessions. I'm stressing once again, just attending the sessions is of no use. You will understand everything, but you cannot develop anything on your own. I'm repeating once again, if you just attend the sessions, I'm telling to everyone, sincere request, if you just attend the sessions, I'm giving 100% guarantee you'll understand everything, but you cannot develop anything on your own. If you want to start developing anything on your own, we have to take time, practice, let the error comes, understand the errors, modify the program accordingly. We should know how to fix that errors. Then only we will become strong in ABAP. Am I clear? So why I'm using else here is all these radio button belong to same group now. So since they belong to same group, at any point of time, only one radio button can be selected. So if the first four are not selected, what is the meaning? It is understood that fifth one is selected. So that's the reason I'm not writing else if, directly I'm using else. If you want to write else if, no problem, you write it. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
Sir, can I have a if block or else if block without any statements inside it, sir?
Write it, no problem.
Is it
But
possible?
what you
Okay.
what you will do with that? What you will do with that?
Suppose for any condition we don't want to do anything.
So if you don't want to do anything, don't write it. Na? I got your
Oh,
point.
okay.
I
Okay.
can keep it blank, no problem. But if you're not writing anything, what is the purpose of checking the condition? You understood, all of you? You are saying that you don't want to write it, you want to keep it blank. So what is the purpose of checking the condition? No purpose. No? So if you want, you can keep it blank, but what is the use? Okay, so in that way you have to think. Either,
Okay,
I hope
thank
it's
you.
clear, right? Yeah.
Yeah, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions, please? Okay, I'll debug this program. Let's understand how it is working. As I told you, we cannot debug variable declaration. So I cannot debug this. So let me set the breakpoint at what line? 14th line. For example, assume that I'll try to set the breakpoint on the 6th line. What is the 6th line? It is a variable declaration, but I was telling that we cannot debug what? Variable declarations. But I'll try to set the breakpoint, see what happens. I'll put the cursor somewhere on the 6th line. I'll set the breakpoint. If I try to set the breakpoint, see what happens. What is happening? Breakpoint is automatically set at the first line because we are trying to set the breakpoint in the variable declarations, which we cannot debug. That's why it is automatically setting the breakpoint in the report statement. No problem. Done. Execute this. Yeah, I'll enter some input values. I'll choose something, division, right? Execute. It is going to the debugging mode. Let me switch to desktop 3. Right. So observe this carefully. P underscore what? X, P underscore X, P underscore Y, right? They are the current values. How many radio buttons you have? 5 radio buttons. If we double click on this, what is the state? What is the value of R1 space? Because we are not selected. R2 is also what? Space. R3 is also what? Space. R4 is what? X. Why X? Because I selected division. Na? R5 is also what? Space. Am I clear? They are the current values. Now I'll say F5. We are in the debugging mode. How do we execute one statement at a time? Press what? F5. When I press F5, yes, control has gone to 14th line. Okay, done. Now here I am checking the condition. If R1 equal to X, what is the value of R1 in the memory? Space. So this condition is not satisfied. Na? So what is the behavior? If the first if condition is not satisfied, it has to check the second if condition in the queue. So control will directly jump to 17th line. I'll press F5. Done. Control is jumping to the 17th line. We are checking the another condition. Is R2 equal to X? No. I'll say F5. Okay, it is going to the 20th line. This is also failed. F5. Right? R4, it is satisfied. Na? R4 value is what? X only, it is satisfied. It will enter the if block. I'll say F5. Done. Right? So we are performing the division. X by Y we are trying to store in RES. What is the value of X by Y? 88 by 10 is 8.8, but integers cannot store decimal values. We will round off to the nearest integer. 8.8 nearest integer is what? 9. Na? So when I say F5, see the value of V underscore RES. As of now, it is 0. Default value for integer is 0. When I say F5, done. I got the value as what? 9. Division is what? RES. I'll say F5 or I'll say F8 because anyway this is the last statement. I'll say F5. It might have generated the output. If you see a display list, yes, I got division is what? 9. Done. F5. It will come out of the if and if. You can see the arrow pointer, black color arrow pointer is coming out of that. Done. It is going to some standard code which I don't want to debug. I'll say F7, F7. Then I got the result. Yeah. Any questions before I move on? Done. Now my next requirement is Instead of radio buttons, I want checkboxes. Okay, so when do we go for checkboxes? When you want to allow the user to select multiple checkboxes, you'll go for what? Sorry, when you want to allow the user to select multiple options, we'll go for what? Checkboxes. If you want to restrict the user to select only one option, we'll go for radio button. So let us see how to design the checkboxes. So in case of checkboxes, we don't have grouping concept. And here also, if a checkbox is selected, the value will be X, otherwise it will be what? Space. Okay. So let us quickly design this. Type of program is what? Executable program. Done. Now here I'll say parameters. I want the same thing, na? P underscore X type I. I'll give some default value. I'll give it as obligatory. Okay, default something 6. I'll say this is obligatory. I want how many checkboxes? 4 checkboxes on the selection screen. So earlier we have seen radio buttons. So for radio buttons also we use parameters. Na? So might be for checkboxes also I should use parameters. I want to check the documentation related to checkbox. Okay, so I'll put the cursor on the parameters. I'll put the cursor on the parameters. I'll press F1. Okay, so parameters, we have type options, screen options, value options, some logical database options. I'll go to screen options. I'll click on this. Right, so in this we have obligatory, we already know that. Just now we have seen radio button group followed by group name. In the radio button syntax only, they are talking about user command. I have not used this user command. We don't know what is that at this stage. I have ignored it. And you can see here, this user command is there in the what the square brackets, na, which indicates what it is optional. You may not be using it every time. You may or may not use. So in the syntaxes, if you have anything in this kind of square brackets, what is the meaning? It is optional. Based on the requirement, you may or may not use. So I have not used it at this stage. Leave it. We may use it later point of time. Done. I am interested in the checkbox. So parameters as checkbox is there, so as a checkbox. If I click on this, they gave some documentation. Read the documentation, read all these things. They may give some examples if possible. Refer to that particular examples. Okay, if they are given, you refer, otherwise you have to do it. So as checkbox user command, this addition specifies that the input field in the first selection is displayed as a checkbox with the corresponding. The checkbox is selected if the value of that is X or small x. Here small x also it is showing. But in case of radio buttons, only X I told, na? Otherwise it is not selected. If you go back to my radio buttons, where is that radio buttons was? If I click on this, here also the radio button is selected if the value of para is what? X or what? Small x. But I guess small x, na, it was not allowing. So there is an error in the documentation. There is an error in the documentation. Only uppercase x it is satisfying. Okay, done. So I'll go for checkbox only. Yeah, someone asked me list box, right? Jyoti, I think you asked me yesterday for yesterday. So this also we'll see going forward. But I cannot directly discuss list box now because we require the knowledge of function models. Because in that list box, I have to show some values. To prepare that values, I should know about function model. At this stage, we don't know what is function model, so I'll not discuss the list box at this stage. So I'll go for what? Checkbox. Okay, right. So I'll go for designing the checkboxes. I'll say parameters. So checkboxes doesn't have group concepts. I'll say p underscore c1 as what? Checkbox. Like this, let me construct some 4 checkboxes. Save it. And earlier we have seen in a group of radio buttons, by default, first radio button is selected, but here we don't have any grouping concept. So when I execute this, none of the checkboxes are selected by default. Am I clear? So I want to select first one and third one by default. So what I'll do here, I'll say default, I'll say X. Here I'll say default small x. Let me check if supported. In case of radio buttons, it was not supported. Save it, check it. I don't have any errors. Let me execute this. Effect. In case of checkbox, it is supporting. In case of radio button, it was not supported. If you have remembered, in the previous example, I said default small x for radio button. It was not allowing. So I give uppercase. For checkbox, it is allowing. But I'll follow the standards. I'll go for uppercase X only. Done. So we have 2 checkboxes selected by default. Done. Now what is the next agenda? Same thing. I'll select this. I may select n number of checkboxes. When I click on this execute button, I need to write the logic. So here also I'll choose go to text element selection text. Addition. What is this? Difference. This I'll say something product. This I'll say division. Let me say enter first number, enter second number, activate this. Okay, execute. Yeah, okay. So here also same kind of logic. Data v underscore res something type I. How do you check the condition? Same na, if p underscore c1 equal to x, had to perform the addition. Res is equal to p underscore x plus p underscore y, right? What is this? Sum is what? V underscore res. Next, what you have to do? Next, anyone can tell me the code? Next, what you have to do? Next.
If p underscore c2 is equal to
Means else if or how is it?
Else if.
if we use else if, then we won't check that second condition, no sir.
Good. Okay. So
If
here,
once the first condition is true.
correct. Good. Okay. So in case of radio buttons, they belong to a group. So if they belong to a group, what is the story? At any point of time, only one radio button can be selected. But here for checkboxes, we don't have grouping concept. The user might select any number of checkboxes. So I need to check the status of each and every checkbox separately. Okay, so that is the reason I'll close it here, and rest of the path is same without using else if I'm doing it. Okay, so if p underscore c1 equal to x, do so and so. If p underscore c2 equal to x, I'll perform the difference. Here I'll say difference is so and so. If p underscore c3 equal to x, I'll perform the product. Okay, product. Here if it is c4 equal to x, I'll perform the division. What is this? Division is so and so. Done. Save it. Check for the syntax error. Done. Execute this. Right. So I'll enter some values. Okay. I'll choose addition, difference, and division. For example, I may select any number of checkboxes. When I execute, I got sum is so and so, difference is so and so, division is what? 2. Working fine. Understood? So why I'm not using else if here? Because user might select any number of checkboxes. So I need to check the status of each and every checkbox separately. That is the reason I'm using what? I'm not using what? Else if. Hope this is clear to everyone. Any questions, please ask. If I use else if, what happens? If the first condition is satisfied, it will not check the rest of the conditions. No? But here I need to check the status of what? Each and every checkbox. I need to write separately so on. So someone asked me earlier, can we write if without else? Yes, for this kind of requirements, I should write it. Yeah, any questions here?
Sir, does we restrict to user for only select one checkbox?
Yes. If that is the case, you can go for radio buttons. But in case of checkbox also, if you want, I don't have direct option, but going forward, we have some concept called as screen internal table. We don't know at this stage, but just for information, if I go to SC11, we don't know what is SC11. We have something called as a screen. Okay, based on the screen structure, there is something gets created called a screen internal table. By using the screen internal table, I can manipulate the requirement according to, I can manipulate the appearance of the screen according to our requirement. So, but generally, if you want that kind of thing, we'll go for radio buttons, because in case of checkboxes, if you're doing like that, the look and feel will not be good. You take any applications, any online applications, checkboxes means you will have what? Multiple options. Okay. If you want to restrict, suppose married, unmarried, right? So at that time, we'll go for what? Radio buttons. But if you want to restrict here, we can do it. But we have to go for what something called a screen internal table, all those things that will come later on.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sir, my doubt is, can we implement this code in, switch statement?
You tell me how to implement.
So first we need to declare
Not
one
switch,
variable.
not switch. You have to ask case. Switch is there in C language.
Yeah,
Here it is
yeah, yeah,
case.
yeah.
So
Case.
tell me, yeah, tell me how do you do it?
Yeah, first
How
we
to do it?
yeah, we declare one more variable, that is getting input.
Okay.
So if case statement, we write case one, case two, case three, right?
But
If
if you are if you are giving one more input there, what is the purpose of going for checkbox?
yeah, okay, okay, got it.
You got it, na?
Yeah,
Already I
yes, yes.
covered it day before
Yeah,
yesterday, right?
yeah, okay.
So I
Yes,
don't want that input. Here
okay.
my output is based on the selection
Check.
made by the user.
Okay,
Okay, so that's the reason I'm going
got
for
it.
checkbox.
Yeah,
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. Any other doubts?
While filling forms, we have to declare something. For that field, declaration is mandatory. So, can we use obligatory for checkboxes?
No, that mandatory would be there for input fields generally, not for checkboxes. Okay, so here also, let me check whether it is supported here. Directly, let me check the supported. Here I'll say P underscore C2, I'll make this as what? Obligatory. I'm trying to this obligatory. So when I do syntax check, yes, what is happening? The addition obligatory and as checkbox must not be used what? Together. So it is saying that it is not possible directly, but again, we can implement by using screen internal table. In the screen internal table, we have a field here required. Okay, so if you set this required field to 1, then yes, I can make any field as what? Mandatory. Not only for input fields, directly you can use obligatory. But for other fields, obligatory is not supported, it seems. But if that is the case, if that is the requirement, if you want this C2 as mandatory kind of thing, yes, it is possible. But for that, I need to write some logic which we don't know at this stage. Loop at screen, if screen hyphen name equal to what? P underscore C2, okay, and all those things you have to write. Screen hyphen what? Required equal to 1. I have to use something called as modify screen. And if like this, I need to write some logic. This you'll understand only after 3-4 weeks. Okay, but answer is yes, possible, Jyoti. Okay. Yeah, any other questions, please? Okay. See, I don't know how you are feeling, but for some of the questions, I'm saying after 1 month, 2 months, because this complete ABAP is a 6 months course. So you can understand why we framed it as 6 months. Okay. So you'll have some dependencies. Okay. You'll have some dependencies. We have to go in a sequence. One topic will be dependent on what? Another topic. Okay. So you need to wait at least for 1 month or so, at least for 1 month or 40 days, so that we can collect all those 30, 40 days discussions and we can put it as a real-time scenario. Okay, so we are trying to understand the base. You can see the documentation also. If you press F1 here on the parameter statement, okay, if I press F1 on the parameter statement, if I go for checkbox here, where is the documentation? Yeah. If I go to screen options, okay, you can see here, observe this carefully. For this list box, they give obligatory here, right? For checkbox, did they give any obligatory here? No. So I cannot use when SAP has not given that. But I am saying we can implement it by using something called a screen internal table. You have to loop that internal table and you have to use some modify statement, all those things. We can make that possible, but not directly. Yeah. Any other queries?
SAP is not case sensitive, right?
Already I told, ABAP statements are not case sensitive. Data is case sensitive. I can write these parameters either in lowercase or uppercase or a combination of lowercase and uppercase. But the data is what? Case sensitive. Means if it is stored in uppercase, we have to compare in uppercase. If it is stored in lowercase, you have to compare in lowercase. If it is stored as a combination, you have to compare in the combination only. But statements are not case sensitive. I can write this if is there. I can put it in what? Uppercase, save it, check for the syntax, no errors, no issues. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Swapna.
Last session, sir, we discussed about that the output is coming on LPS screen. There is in minus, then you giving us is appropriate syntax for that. But
Okay.
in information dialog box, I trying to this in information dialog box there is a coming minus sign after value. Then there is any syntax for that the minus signs is before the value.
Do one thing. You send me that program, Swapna, in the email. If you can send me
Sir,
the
I
complete
already
program.
sent it.
No, I didn't receive
Complete
it.
program I attached.
When you have sent it today?
No, yesterday, sir, at night.
But I didn't receive it, I think. Let me cross check, Swapna. I have not checked it. No, I have checked it till yesterday evening 8 o'clock, but I didn't receive it. Let me cross check today. If you have sent it, I'll reply to that. Let me go through the entire program, then I'll comment on that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. I'll give one exercise. Try to do it. Take your own time. In the sense, take 2-3 days time. You copy it from anywhere, no problem. But I want the output. So try to do this exercise. My requirement is, see, if you take my previous program, radio buttons program, what we are doing here, we are selecting a radio button and we are clicking on the execute button. Then only I am getting the result. Now your job is, your assignment is, the moment I select the radio button, I should display the result either in information dialog box or in the LPS screen. Am I clear? The moment I select a radio button, I want the result to be displayed either in the information dialog box or in the what LPS script. So take your own time and try to do it. See, real time also, when a requirement is given, the only thing you have to do is you have to refer to the documentation, you have to Google it, all those. Here also, try to check out, try to implement this logic. Anyone having any idea on this, how to do it? The moment I select, I want the result to be displayed. I don't want the user again to click on the execute button. Yes, any idea, anyone?
We may provide message within the loop.
Sorry, Jyoti.
We may provide the message option in the loop if or else if whatever the condition.
But this logic will get execute only when you click on execute button. I don't want that. The moment I select, I want it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so take your own time.
Okay, sir.
Okay, don't be in a hurry. Even if you don't get also, no problem. Anyway, I'll cover it after few days. But I want you people to spend time on the system. I'll give a clue. I'll give a clue. What is that clue is? Suppose here, this is my screen. If I right click anywhere on the screen, what is happening? I am getting some context to menu na. So someone is listening to my action. Someone is listening to my action and they are providing the reaction. What is my action? I am doing the right click. System is listening to my action, and to my action, it has given the reaction in the form of context menu. Similarly, if I click on the start button, I'm getting this context menu. Na? Same thing, someone is listening to my action. To my action, some reaction has to be performed. So what I mean to say is, we have to go for event handling. I'll give a clue. Whenever I select a radio button on the selection screen, whenever I select a radio button on the selection screen, there will be some event triggered, there will be some event fired, there will be some event raised. We can use different terminologies. There is some event raised by SAP. We need to handle that event and we need to write the appropriate logic. Just like if you take any online application, you may have a form where you'll enter the data and you may have some buttons: submit button, clear button, cancel button. If I click on submit, something will happen. If I click on clear, something will happen. If I click on cancel, something will happen. So my program is identifying which button you are interacting. My program is identifying which button you have interacted. Based on that, the appropriate action is implemented. Here also, on the selection screen, whenever we select a radio button, there would be some event triggered. So your job is identify that event, handle that event, and write the logic inside that particular event. Identify the event, handle that event, implement the appropriate logic in that particular event. So take this as an exercise. Let me know in the couple of sessions. If you get the answer, if you get the complete answer, drop me a mail so that I can evaluate that. Okay, that is one requirement.
In Java we have on-click listener, right?
Yes, listeners. Okay,
Yeah.
similar to that, here also there would be some events. Okay,
Okay.
so
Okay.
in case of Java, if you click on
Yeah.
button, some button click event, action
Yeah.
listener, mouse listener, keyboard listener, some listener classes are there.
Yeah.
Similar
Yeah.
to that, here also we would have same kind of thing, but not in the form of classes. We have something called as events. So identify that event, handle that event, implement that event. Okay, that is one assignment. Another
Okay.
assignment is, another assignment is, observe this carefully. When I execute this program, I got the selection screen. I got this input field from the left hand side, na? Left hand side. I don't want that. My requirement is when the selection screen is displayed, try to understand. When the selection screen is displayed, I'm getting the labels from the extreme left hand side. No, I want to start the label from a specific position. Enter first number, the label should start from here. After this, I want the input field. Again, in the second line, the label should start from here. Enter what? Second number. What is happening? The default behavior is what? These radio buttons or input fields, everything is starting from the extreme left hand side. You start it from a specific position. So do R&D on that also. Okay, the elements should start from a particular position. Just like if you have remembered, if you have practiced 3-4 days back, in the initial session, I use right statement. As part of right statement, if I say 10 or 15, what is the meaning I told? Starting from the 10th position, reserve how many spaces? 15 space. But this right statement is related to LPS screen, output screen. But here, the elements will come on selection screen. So you decide, you identify on the selection screen how to start the element from a particular position. So you focus on these labels. I want to start from a particular position. So these two assignments, you try to do it. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One more point I want to convey. See, the class timings now. Before this class, I'm having 2 more classes. And tentatively, the class will be scheduled for 1 hour. But if you remembered yesterday and day before yesterday, I took your class around 1 hour 20 minutes. Yesterday also I took 1 hour 20 minutes. Day before yesterday also I took around 1 hour 20 minutes or even 30 minutes. It got extended. So what happens is in every batch, definitely we'll have some questions. I need to address that questions. You'll have some scenario which I cannot extend in the next session. I need to complete on the same day because you will have the link. If I extend that to next session, again the link will be broken. So what happens because of that? The class may get extended. I start my classes at 6 a.m. Okay, so before this class, I need to complete 2 classes. One is UI5 class, another is ANA class, which is advanced. This ABAP is very basic. Okay, so you can understand that most of the working people will be attending this modules. You will have n number of what queries in that. So when I address that query, sometimes the class gets delayed. Class gets delayed. So there will be delay in what sending the meeting ID. So don't get panic. If the class is cancelled, we'll inform one day before only or we'll inform early morning. So that's the reason. Please keep buffer time for 10-15 minutes. Wantedly, I will not start the class late or wantedly, we will not delay the batches. If we delay the batch, what happens? Course will get extended. If the course get extended, we cannot start new batches. If we are not starting new batches, we will not get the money. Unnecessarily, will we do like that? No, right? We have to complete the batch in time so that we can start the new batch. And when we complete the batch, student should leave happily. Okay. And as I told you already, a student joined for one course with me. He will do 5-6 courses with me for the next 4-5 years. I'm sure about that. Most of the participants will do that. So I need to justify them. I need to keep them happy. So that's why if I say 8:15, don't expect the meeting at exactly at 8:15. Definitely it will be delayed. Sometimes I may send exactly at 8:15 or 8:10 only. Okay, so don't get panic. If you ask our Gensoft team also, they cannot send the meeting ID because I need to take the session. They will not take the session and they cannot give the meeting ID. So understand my problem also. Okay, so don't get panic. I'll try to start in time, but sometimes it gets delayed. That's why I already told you keep buffer time. So if I say 8:15, I'll try to start by 8:15, but sometimes it may got delayed. Today I don't know whether my team has sent the what messy or not. I told that we'll start the class at 8:30, but even at 8:30 it was not possible. It got delayed by another 10 minutes. 8:40 I have started. So it happens sometimes. So understand my problem also. Okay, I need to take care of Core Abap, I need to take care of Oops Abap, I need to take care of Cross Apps, I need to take care of UI5 front end, I need to take care of UI5 back end, I need to take care of WebDim Pro, I need to take care of Abapana, I need to take care of HR Abap. I deal all these models. So I'll have many things in my mind. I need to resolve many queries. So the class gets extended sometimes. Okay, so please don't panic. Even if you ask our GenSoft team also, they cannot give a meeting ID. In case if any class cancellations are there, 99.9% will inform on the previous day itself. Okay, will not cancel the class at the last one. Sometimes because of any technical issue in the go-to meeting, sometimes it may happen, but unnecessarily we will not delay the batch, will not extend the batch. Okay, keep that in mind. So please cooperate. Okay, and one more thing is, this is the initial phase. I'm going very slowly, but after 1 month or so I need to increase my phase. If you don't start practicing, it will be difficult for you. Okay, so start practicing. Yeah, I'm done for today's session. Any queries, please ask. I'll try to start the session by 8:15 from tomorrow onwards. In case if any delay is there, please excuse me, don't get panic. I'll try to start by 8:15. Yeah, any other questions, please? And one more thing, please don't circulate these videos outside your network. Okay, there are some participants in the old batches long back. They have put those videos on Udemy and other social networks. And those people where they'll not have all the recordings, material will not be there. Those people, they might have registered with them and they are calling our GenSoft team and they'll ask for that video, this video. We are no way connected with any social network. Okay, we have not uploaded our videos on Udemy or other YouTube or whatever it is. YouTube, 1 or 2 videos our GenSoft team might have done, but on Udemy or LinkedIn or other social networks, we have not uploaded. And even if they are uploaded, they are very old videos, 2018, 2017 videos. There is a lot of difference between that videos, that scenarios and this scenarios, lot of change in the syllabus also. Okay, so when you are paying the money, you please take advantage. Don't increase competition for yourself. Competition will not increase for me. I will keep on upgrading, I'll keep on changing the examples, I'll keep on changing the scenarios, but unnecessarily competition will increase for you only. So when you paid the money, you take the advantage. Please keep the material or recordings to yourself only. Please don't share it across your friends also. It's a humble request from my end. Afterwards, your wish. Okay. Yeah. Any questions, please? Chalo then. So thank you, everyone. We'll meet tomorrow at 8:15. Try to do that assignments. First, try to refer to the documentation, Google it, copy, paste the code, do the necessary changes. That is a way you have to practice. Okay. Even if I have to learn new topic, I don't know that by birthright. I will also search somewhere. I will also search in YouTube. I will also search in Google. Okay. So like that, you have to do the search, and based on that, you have to do the analysis and practice. Okay. So try to do these assignments. Let's see who will do that. Okay. Chalo then. So thanks everyone. We'll meet tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.